Hello, I'm Brigantia, Blackbird of Blackbird's Brew. Happy Wednesday and welcome back to our series Divination Demonstration. This week we're going to be looking at the Dinette spread. And I have a picture of it right here. And as you can see, you've got your nice little plate. You've got your little utensils onto the sides. It's 10 cards. It does have some similarities with the Celtic cross spread, but it's a little bit different, and you'll notice that as we go along if you're familiar with both spreads. And both the spread and the deck that we're going to be using through November for these divinations is the Housewives Tarot, which you will already be somewhat familiar with if you've also been following the Journey Through the Tarot series. But let us begin. Now, ideally, the advice is to use this spread when you're sitting at the dining table or at the breakfast counter. Honestly, wherever you eat most often. I know so many of us have the really bad habit of eating in front of the TV or, in front of our laptops or, anywhere we have a screen to entertain us while we eat. So wherever it is that we generally eat our meals, this would be a good place to do this particular spread. So, the first card represents the heart of the matter. Our querent got the King of Pentacles. He represents luxury, diligence, and riches. This tells me that the querent either has or is probably desiring to have a more comfortable life. They are looking for some security. And no wonder. I think everyone's finances have taken a bit of a tumble over the past couple of years. So this would probably be relevant to a lot of different people, just wanting to make sure that, you've got your bases covered, all those ducks are in a row, the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted, and that things are generally in order. Because at the end of the day, we do want to be comfortable. We want to know that we're going to be okay. So I would imagine that the querent is dealing with some insecurity on this issue. Now next, we have the second card that represents the querent's present situation. Our querent pulled the Wheel of Fortune, which represents destiny, the ups and downs in life, but also taking responsibility for your own fate. And that's really the key word that really stuck with me when I was looking at this card about take matters into your own hands. You're worried about your current circumstances, start actively doing something about them. If you are in an unfortunate job, well, there's a lot of openings right now because plenty of people decided they'd rather stay at home than go back to work. So there are probably plenty of companies who would be much more likely to hire you now than they might have been in times past. So you have options. As long as we have a labor-focused market, let's make the most of it. Use it to your advantage and get yourself situated. And if you're wanting to start up a business, this is a scary time for it, but just try to proactively improve your circumstances, improve your own fate. That is the matter of not dismissing the huge role that your own agency has in things. Now, the third card representing what's currently passing out of the querent's life. And we've got the Queen of Cups. She represents intoxication, emotions, introspection. It sounds like our poor querent has been drowning in some pretty watery energy, possibly to the point where it has blinded them to anything else. Sometimes if you get really stuck in emotion, not only can you not think straight, but you can't seem to make good decisions about what to do about it. You can be very reactive, but you aren't very good at forming a plan or taking action or doing something about it. And I would imagine that our querent has gone through quite an emotional roller coaster. But as this is passing out of the querent's life, that means that the tidal wave of emotions, not your normal emotions that just happen, but being overwhelmed by emotion, that is passing, that the time for introspection is passing, and that means it's time to get up and get to work. Do something. That's more and more the vibe that I'm getting from these cards. Now the fourth card, it represents the immediate future for the querent, and our querent has the Fool, which is about confusion, indecision, and beginning a journey. And I think that in this context, in relation to the other cards, this really is about beginning a journey, turning over a new leaf. This is a new chapter. Something different is going forward, and it's going to be actively shaped by the querent. So that does indicate that they are taking that advice from the Wheel of Fortune. They are taking responsibility for their circumstances, and they got up, they got to work, and they are doing something about it. And so that is very good. Just getting up is sometimes half the battle. And even though the Fool might fall off the roof, and our Querent might have a few stumbles along the way, it is still a very favorable sign that they've nonetheless decided to get going and just start. The fifth card represents the Querent's past, and the Querent pulled the Eight of Pentacles, and this is about talent, imagination, and inspiration. This is probably someone who's more artistically inclined, someone who likes to use their skills and all that. I don't think this is so much as they're not using that anymore, as it is they're going from a more contemplative stage to an active phase. I'm going to do something. The sixth card represents how others see the Querent. Our Querent got the Magician, which represents illusions, deception, and charm. This card is a little bit different from some other decks that have a little bit more favorable light on the Magician. But looking at this one, perhaps the Querent is not thought of as being particularly honest by others. And, we have nothing to indicate whether that perception is justified or not. Or perhaps they might think that the Querent is, aren't they lovely, but they got some funny ideas, and so perhaps this could be an indication that the Querent is not necessarily taken seriously by people around them. Also, with the idea of charm, you take a look at our figure here. I'm definitely getting the stereotypical used car salesman vibes. I used to be very good friends with someone who actually did deal in used cars, and, well... He was a delightful person, but he was pretty convinced that he had his own special line in hell waiting for him, just because of the vagaries of that profession. But looking at this, it does mean that perhaps the front, because we all put on something of a front for the outside world, perhaps that front is just not ringing true to the people who know the Querent, and they're looking to get past what the Querent wants them to see, or thinks they want them to see, and into what's actually going on. So I'm definitely picking up some issues with interpersonal relationships. Now, the seventh card represents how the Querent sees themselves, and our Querent got the Tower. So the Tower is about repression, breaking the mold, questioning convention, and falling down and having to make a complete sweeping away before they can begin again. I think that for this reading, the idea of breaking the mold and seeing themselves as someone who isn't like others, I do think that is kind of where my instincts are taking me with this particular Querent. And that can be a good thing. It can be a good thing because a lot of times if people see themselves as different, it makes them feel quite special. And that gives them a boost to the self-esteem. But if they are genuinely different from others, that may mean that they also have a lot of difficulty connecting with other people. And that could account for some of the things that we saw with the Magician a moment ago. So that's a kind of an interesting side note. Now the eighth card represents the Querent's hopes and fears. They drew the Knight of Cups, which is about charm, romance, and sensitivity. So it does seem that our Querent is looking for a little bit of love in the life, particularly of the romantic variety. You see, you've got the figures there, he's all getting the drinks, and he's enthused, and he's enthusiastically going to be pursuing this young girl, and it's all exciting. It's the butterflies of a romantic beginning. It's about the hope of having someone to walk alongside you as you go through life. Pretty normal desire. And that's definitely on the Querent's mind. Now, the ninth card represents a direction to take or for something for the Querent to ponder. And they got the Nine of Wands, which is about obstacles overcome, which, if you're climbing a ladder in that get-up, you've already overcome some obstacles. But you can also see the figure is also burdened down with something that looks pretty heavy. This also represents imminent success because the figure in the card is just about at the top of that ladder, just about reaching that pinnacle. Maybe this means for our Querent needs to contemplate what does success look like to them. What is the end goal? And it's also about accepting that obstacles will come. but not looking at obstacles as this completely unpassable mountain or something that you cannot possibly get around, over, or through. I think it is meant to be an encouragement of, don't be too dragged down when things inevitably go wrong, or when there are setbacks, or when you're having to reassess and rethink your strategy. Don't be too discouraged. This is a natural part of the process. It does not mean you are doomed to fail, and you can be successful. So I think this is very much encouragement. Now, lastly, the outcome for our 10th card, our Aquarian got the Lovers, representing romance, infatuation, and sex. So it does seem that romance is going to be walking into the Aquarian's life, and if this is related to their other goals, so much the better. That means everything's moving in the same direction, and that's a lot easier to deal with in life. So all in all, I would say this is pretty favorable. There are some areas of concern, but nothing is insurmountable, and I think that's the overall message of this particular spread. So, that was the Dinette spread. If you would like to see a closer picture that I hope is slightly better quality than what I was able to hold up to the camera, you will need to come to Blackbird's Brew. I will have it posted in the Magical Tidbits channel. If you haven't joined already, you can do so by clicking on the link in the description box below. And as always, please subscribe to this channel, like this video, and leave me a comment. But that's it for now. I'll see you later. Bye.